Hello, we are going to discuss Matthew Arnold and his poem Dover Beach in this lecture. First, we will see the historical and literary context in which Matthew Arnold was writing his poems, and then see briefly his views on poetry in an essay called The Study of Poetry. Read his poem Dover Beach, analyze it linguistically and rhetorically, and then we will also refer to another poet, Anthony Hecht, who has written a poem called The Dover Beach in response to Arnold's own poem Dover Beach, and finally we will compare these two and end this lecture. Let us see the historical and literary context. Three monarchs ruled this British land at this time: King George IV, William IV and Queen Victoria. During this period, we find the rapid rise of the middle class in society and the novel in literature. We also have rapid advancements in science and technology in terms of transport, communication, medicine and so many other fields. The technological developments were showcased in 1851 through this great exhibition at Hyde Park. It was an engineering marvel for the whole world. As science and technology were growing more powerfully, faith in religion declined. Religion was losing its power also because of Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. At this time, there was a felt need for a secular way of guidance for the people to hold on to life and find some meaning. We have such poets like Barrett Browning, Tennyson and Robert Browning writing during this time. Immediately after this, we have pre-Raphaelite poets writing for the sake of art. To give a brief introduction to Matthew Arnold, we must remember that he was well known for both poetry and criticism. Maybe we can say he inaugurated this cultural criticism. He wrote so much about culture during his time. He was primarily professionally a school inspector, but he went on to influence reading of poetry in school education as an alternative to religion. Later on, he was appointed a professor of poetry at Oxford University and he gave lectures. He was the first to give lectures in English, not in Latin or Greek. Arnold was the first professor of poetry to give lectures in English at the University of Oxford. He was a poet who articulated the question of faith and doubt memorably in his famous poem Dover Beach, published in 1867. He was a critic to introduce the touchstone method of criticism, to compare the best poems with the recent poems to assess the quality of recent poetry or literature. He was a social and cultural critic with high seriousness, and also we have to remember that he was one of the early poets to give a truly modern perspective on our society and life. To discuss the views of Arnold on poetry, we refer to this essay, The Study of Poetry. It first appeared as an introduction to an anthology of poetry called The English Poets, edited by T.H. Ward, published in 1880. In this introduction, Arnold says the strongest part of our religion today is its unconscious poetry, because science and technology have taken over the role of religion. Further, he said, mankind will discover that we have to turn to poetry to interpret life for us, to console us, to sustain us. This kind of consolation, sustenance, therapy, support, psychological, mental support we find in poetry at all times. during the Victorian time, now and earlier, and even after many years we will find this role of poetry intact. At last he concluded that poetry is a criticism of life. It reflects life in its full measure. So, we have to read poetry and take lessons from poetry for living, as religion was giving lessons in life earlier. Now, let us move on to this poem Dover Beach with a brief background. We have totally 37 lines in this poem. Structurally, we find 4 verse paragraphs from line number 1 to 14, then 15 to 20, then 21 to 28, and lastly from 29 to 37. The whole poem takes place at a place called Dover Beach, which is a southeast part of England. We have a speaker and a listener, that is the lover and the beloved. We also have a context or an occasion, that is the lover and the beloved have their honeymoon. We have a huge question in this poem: how do we live in a meaningless world when we do not find meaning because religion has lost its power, because science is rapidly growing? How are we to find meaning? How do we live in this world? The answer is also given at the end of the poem, that is true love. True love is a great source of finding meaning in life. Love, loyalty, faith, caring for someone else, having good interpersonal relationship, these are the ways of life which will give meaning to us. We understand all these dimensions, but somehow we are carried away by the progress in science and technology we have today. Here is a poem Dover Beach, first section 1 to 5. We also have the map of England here. The Dover Beach location is easily found between this England and France. We have this Strait of Dover, we can easily locate it. We have given the picture so that you can understand how Matthew Arnold, the poet, is addressing his beloved in the location called Dover Beach, looking at France. The sea is calm tonight, the tide is full, the moon lies fair upon the straits on the French coast, the light gleams and is gone, the cliffs of England stand glimmering and vast out in the tranquil bay. Next section. Come to the window, sweet is our night air, only from the long line of spray where the ebb meets the moon blanched sand. Listen, you hear the grating roar of pebbles which the waves suck back and fling at their return up the high strand, begin and cease and then again begin with a tremulous cadence slow and bring the eternal note of sadness in. Next section. Sophocles long ago heard it on the Aegean, and it brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery. We find also in the sound a thought, hearing it by this distant northern sea. Next. The sea of faith was once too at the full, and round earth's shore lay like the folds of a bright girdle furled, but now I only hear its melancholy, long withdrawing roar, retreating to the breath of the night wind down the vast edges, drear and naked shingles of the world. The last one. Allah, let's be true to one another, for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help for pain, and we are here as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night. We have underlined the last line, where ignorant armies clash by night. That is a reference to the meaningless wars people have fought in different periods throughout history. When we pay attention to the thematic contrast in this poem, we find calm is contrasted with restless, day with night, light with dark, happiness with sadness, and the key point that is contrasted is faith and doubt, then love and death. Later on we have more lovers and the world, certitude and incertitude, pleasure and pain, peace and war, knowledge and ignorance. How are we going to manage the contradictions that we have in life when we do not find meaning in life because we do not have something to hold on to? The only certitude that we can have is through love, being loyal to each other, by loving each other. History does not give meaning to us, science does not give meaning to us, society does not give meaning to us, humanity does not give meaning to us because there is so much of ignorance. They clash by night, in darkness, in ignorance. Matthew Arnold was referring to the kinds of many wars people have fought in darkness, in ignorance, and killed their own brethren. They could not distinguish between enemies from friends because of darkness, because of ignorance. Metaphorically, this is an ignorance of humanity because we do not understand that we are all brothers and sisters. Arnold has used a number of poetic devices in this poem. We notice the parallelism and ascendant in the very first lines. The sea is calm tonight, the tide is full, the moon lies fair upon the straits. Parallel structure of subject, verb, complement, like this we find in all the three phrases. And then we also notice that Arnold has not used the conjunction and to connect them, that is where we have this ascendant. We have assonance in two words, in line number 2, tide and lies. We also have the personification of sea bringing in sad note to the poet and to the reader. We have this famous allusion to Sophocles. Sophocles is a great dramatist. He wrote about the human misery at that time. Sophocles long ago heard it on the Aegean. Then we have the metaphor, the ebb and flow of human misery. It is a river. Our misery is the river that is flowing from the beginning to the end of time. We also have another metaphor, the sea of faith. This river of misery can be easily crossed if we have the sea of faith, but today the ocean or the sea is full of troubles, so we are not able to have faith. Then we have the simile, like the folds of a bright girdle furled, and also we have this metaphor in shingles. We also have more poetic devices. Here we have simile like a land of dreams. Then we have a rhetorical figure called tricolon, which is used for the purpose of giving more emphasis. So various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help for pain. In threes, we have 3 lines. So there is more of emphasis on this, so various, so beautiful, so new. Similarly, we also have the emphasis on nor certitude, nor peace, nor help. We have this famous metaphor at the end of this poem, ignorant armies clashing by night. When the ignorant armies who are unable to distinguish between friends and enemies, when they clash by night, they kill each other without knowing what they are doing. We also have the case of alliteration and assonance to lie before us like a land of dreams. L is a case of alliteration and I is a case of assonance. When we pay attention to rhyme, rhythm and meter in this poem, we find that there is no specific rhyme in the poem, but some end rhymes are noted, especially in the last 5 lines. We have this light, pain, plain, flight and night. We also have caesura, enjambment and in-stopped lines. Here we have an example. Of the night wind down the vast edges drear and naked shingles of the world. Drear continues with and naked. We have the caesura after night wind, we have enjambment after drear, and at the end of the world we have full stop. Then the general rhythm that we can find in this is iambic, and the meter can be seen here through this scansion. We have 6 syllables and 10 syllables lines. The sea is calm tonight, the tide is full, the moon lies fair. From these lines we find that there are also variations, including one spandi that we can notice here, lies fair. There is no fixed form like a sonnet in this poem. It is a lyrical poem. There is a speaker and his love. The speaker shares his love for his beloved. The listener is present, responds to the poet or the speaker. The whole poem is suggestive of a dramatic monologue, because we have a speaker, we have a listener, and also we have an occasion. The lineation of the whole poem is like the ebb and flow of the waves, the flow of human life perhaps. To give an overall impression of this poem, let us look at the following points. A lover and his beloved stay at Dover and watch the moonlit night over the Dover beach across the state of Dover. The calm and moonlit night gives happiness, but it is short lived as they listen to the waves very closely. The sound of waves takes the speaker to the past Aegean Sea, where the Greek dramatist Sophocles also listened to the same sound of human misery. In a world without faith, the speaker suggests that they could be true to each other and live their life meaningfully, though without much meaning, as it is an ignorant world where soldiers do not know which side they are fighting for in darkness. The metaphor of the ignorant armies clashing by night points to the faithless and meaningless existence of the human condition. Now let us see the poem by Anthony Hecht, a modern poet. We have only one sample here. It is a longer poem. Those of you interested can read the whole poem and compare the whole poem with Dover Beach. So there stood Matthew Arnold and this girl with the cliffs of England crumbling away behind them, and he said to her, "Try to be true to me and I will do the same for you, for things are bad all over," etc., etc. Well, now I knew this girl. It is true she had read Sophocles in a fairly good translation and caught that bitter allusion to the sea, but all the time he was talking she had in mind the notion of what his whiskers would feel like, because it is honeymoon time, but he was thinking about literature, that too Greek literature, with a melancholic tone. Let us compare Dover Beach by Arnold with Dover Beach by Anthony Hecht. Arnold's poem was published in 1867 and Hecht's poem was published in 1968, almost 100 years difference. Arnold was a British poet living in 19th century and Hecht was an American poet living in 20th century. Arnold and his wife, they were married, so we have a married couple in Dover Beach, but in the case of Hecht's poem we have unknown strangers. In the case of Arnold, it was once a lifetime visit for the purpose of honeymoon, but here in the case of Hecht it is kind of annual visit. Faith is remembered and valued by Arnold in his poem, but in the case of Hecht faith is not at all remembered, it is ignored or forgotten. In Dover Beach we find a situation where the couple are unable to enjoy their life happily due to the male speaker recalling Sophocles generalizing the human condition. But in Hecht he says he enjoys his visits to Dover with his girl and gives the girl a good time plus celebrating it with a bottle of wine. Both poems are by men and feminists may question the way in which they have represented the human condition, and it is one perspective. We may have other perspectives on the whole situation by women poets differently. To summarize, we looked into the historical and literary context in which the Victorian poet Matthew Arnold wrote his poem Dover Beach, along with some views of Arnold's on poetry from his essay The Study of Poetry. We analyzed the poem linguistically and rhetorically, compared the poem with Anthony Hecht's poem called The Dover Beach, echoing Arnold, and the comparison shows two different kinds of social perceptions, individual perceptions on love and marriage, society, life, humanity. We have some references. The second reference is very interesting because Coconut has found some influence of this Sikh rebellion of 1857 in Arnold's poetry. Arnold was familiar with the War of Independence in India. Historians have reported that British soldiers fought with each other in night and killed each other. Let us know more about our own history through this poem by reading this essay. Thank you.